Place the conversation.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order and start with the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome, Jason. This is
Thank
your
you.
first meeting, right?
Yep.
Happy to have you. So we'll do roll call, and since Jason's up, Benzinger? Here.
Here.
Greg?
Here.
Jeffrey is excused. Wicker?
Here.
Simon?
Yep.
Laraway?
Here.
And I'm here. Okay, first up, agenda approval. Anybody have any additions, deletions?
Make a motion that we accept. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign? Motion passes. Hey, did everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes? Any questions? Anything you'd like to discuss from the minutes? All right,
Motion for approval for the minutes.
silence. Sounds like I think we're good there. So
Leo, who's got the motion?
I made a motion to approve the minutes. I'll
do you have a second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Motion carries. All right, we'll move along to reports and presentations. Mr. Chairperson, Mrs. Chairperson, I don't have anything other than welcoming Jason and I'll pass it on to village manager.
You have a report in your packet from myself. I'm gonna cover the items in it and then answer any questions you might have. Next week at the village council meeting, there will be 2 public hearings. The first one will be on a proposed amendment to the village's blight code. This would address essentially the stockpiling, accumulation, and non-removal of cut or timbered trees. We had similar language in the blight ordinance up until an update we did last year. Due to some recent activity in the village, I think it's pertinent to put it back in. Specifically, we're seeing an increase in activity of people that are logging residentially zoned lots. The cleanup that has been done has been less than ideal at this point. So this is something the council will be looking at next week. We've had 3 complaints regarding one of the situations that we're looking at right now. So we'll see what the feedback we get next week is and go from there. The other public hearing is the annual renewal of our special assessment district for fire protection of the Broomfield Township side of the village. So everyone in Lake Isabella pays 1 mil for fire protection services. Those of you who live in the Sherman Township side, you pay it directly to the township because it's a voted in millage township wise. Those of us who live on the Broomfield side of the village, we pay a mill to the village, who then pays the township for that service. Without that, the Broomfield Township side of the village would have fire protection from Remus and the Wheatland Fire Protection Department. Yeah.
Bit of a hike.
Little bit of a hike, and the ISO rating between the 2 jurisdictions for those of us who, you know, do the homeowners insurance gig. What I paid for my assessment is less than what my home insurance comes down because of the better rating that Natalie Sherman has, so. It truly is a financial saver for our homeowners because of the difference between like a 6 and a 9, I think, of the ISO ratings last I looked between the 2 departments. And obviously a quicker response time, and we have several Nottawa Sherman personnel who live here in the village who a lot of time on medical runs will respond in their personal vehicle as opposed to going out to the hall and then back, so. Yeah, we've done that for 24 years, give or take, around 2000.
Yep.
Yep, but we have to hold a hearing every year to renew the district, so. In your packet is an up-to-date permit list for the year. We've seen several new homes come in, including one out on the peninsula portion of Whispering Pines, not the official Whispering Pines, but the phase 2 that never got developed that turned into the
Rollin River.
Rollin River, yeah.
Okay.
So one of the ones off of River Road.
Okay.
They got a well and septic permit and are building right out on that point, so. And right next to that, we're waiting on a variance application, late last year, someone put in, I know who did it, put in a small cabin shed on their otherwise vacant lot down there. Went in October. And, we made contact with them over the winter and they had already left for, she winters in like Laguna Beach or somewhere out in Southern California. She just got back, you know. But the request that they are going to make is that they own the property across the street. So which is outside of the village. And so they are looking at it from the standpoint of an accessory structure across the street. So, that is something that the ZBA will hopefully be hearing in the near future, but. We are currently accepting proposals to replace our geothermal heating and cooling system. Because it died
In this
in
building.
this building here, a little chilly. We started noticing some problems. Fall of last year overall, and in January, we had the well flushed and we had a whole bunch of manganese buildup in the well. And system worked pretty decent for a few weeks after that, but it ran pretty continuously and then it just was not kicking out at all and turned out the compressor and it blew and. The direction the council wants to take is we are going to bring natural gas in from the street and go with a conventional gas furnace and a central air conditioner for the building as opposed to a geothermal. We've got the paperwork in progress with consumers to start that work. Bids are due Friday. Right now I have 4 of them. And another 2 or 3 companies I think that are probably gonna submit a bid to do the project. It's a little bit complicated because the geothermal is on its own circuit, so there's some electrical involved because you gotta, tie it back to the main circuit board now. We gotta bring gas in and work it around a well and some other stuff in that room, but, hopefully we will have central air in the near future. We can wait for heat for a while, but I'm not looking forward to being in this building in June if we don't have air conditioning. Might be a lot of work from home days. We have accepted a bid from Central Asphalt to resurface Clubhouse Drive from Coldwater all the way down to basically the end of South Park. The village received a grant from MDOT to do the project. It covers 50% of the resurfacing costs. We initially had budgeted or projected like 338,000 for the project and the low bid came in at 254. And the next bid was like 299, so both bids we received were low than our estimate.
Pyramid at 299.
Yeah, Pyramid was the other one, 299. Central is looking to do it after July, so it would actually be our next fiscal year. They have to get it done by September 30th, because that's the state's fiscal year, so. So our grant amount is gonna be half of that 254 is what it's gonna cover now. We're gonna apply for another project for next year, haven't figured out which one we're gonna do for that. Yet, but that's in the works. We'll talk a little bit more at council next Tuesday as part of our budget presentation. We've also received a grant for $45,000 from MISHDA to have a target market housing analysis done for the village. That was a central component of our current master plan, and that one was done in 2016 as part of a regional planning effort that also hit Mount Pleasant and I think Shepherd as well as all of Isabella County. So we've reached out to that consultant. They're putting together a formal proposal for the council to adopt at its June meeting. And if you look through our master plan, it's got a lot of really good data in there on the target market analysis for the housing stuff. The thing that I really like, and I think this will be of importance to us in this cycle, is the mosaic data from Experian. So Experian, the credit bureau company, they track lifestyles. So based on your spending habits, you get plumped into a lifestyle. And so based on that, they're able to go through and tell you, you know, how many in this demographic are in your community, and they break it by like spending habits and lifestyle habits and, you know, those type of things. So one of the things that in 2016 that we saw is one of their groups they call, stock cars in state parks. And it's, you know, families with kids that have a lot of toys, that like to vacation, do all that stuff, and knowing that data was some of the stuff that we looked at and said, all right, we need to start looking at being more permissive on garages and these type of things, because this is a growing demographic in our community and they need a place to put all their stuff, you know? So, and it's gonna be important for us because of how crummy the census data for the village was in this cycle. And, you know, we'll talk a little bit about that in the master plan survey, but, you know, we were undercounted, by, you know, at least 50 homes, if not more. And, you know, the data that we have to work with off the census is not something that I'm typically or very thrilled about in terms of its accuracy. You know, that is what it is. Budget is, close to being done. One of the big questions that the council is going to need to discuss and determine at its meeting next week, is what we're gonna do with our police millage. Cause we levy a 1/3 mill for road patrol contract with the sheriff's department. We know if we're gonna have a sheriff's department.
Should do the end of the year.
Well, here's the, you know, we're a July 1 fiscal,
Right.
you know, so. Do we levy half a mill? Do we, you know, half of the millage rate? Do we levy none? I don't know. I gotta look back a little bit more research on, you know, what we're gonna have as far as the fund balance carry forward. But, you know, I don't wanna run a situation where we levy a millage for a service that gets cut and then have to figure out how to refund people. That'd be a nightmare with 2,200 parcels. 4 seats will be up on the council this year, including Mr. Laraway, our clerk Carol Shannon, and our newest members. We're gonna start having information available in the next couple of weeks for people who wanna run. You're gonna have to get between 17 and 35 signatures of registered voters in the village to qualify. So the village charter has a threshold of at least 1, but not more than 2% of the registered voters in the community have to sign your nominating petitions. Which ironically is more than you have to get if you're running for township office.
That's the one thing that cracks me up, since I've been through all 3 of them, the smaller the village area, the more signatures you need.
Yeah.
You go to Sherman Township, you need less, you go to county, you need even less. So the bigger you have, the less people you need to sign, or in county, they could actually pay their $100 and not even have to get signatures.
Fireworks on Saturday the 6th, and we were approved the first bid for the lake restoration project. That is the Birch Park bid project. Manley's gonna do that. The lake committee had a meeting end of April with Guy Savin, who pitched them on the idea of doing one bid for the rest of the project to do hydraulic dredging for all of it.
Wow.
It's a wonderful idea, but the finances aren't gonna work based on how we structured the millage. When we structured the millage, we went to the association and had several meetings with them and said, you know, if we wanna go for a bond, this is what we have to do. If we're gonna go for just a millage, this is what we have to do. And to do the project the way Guy Savin would like, we would need to bond out. In order to bond out, you have to meet a threshold of it being a public improvement, which it obviously is because the lake is public water. Where we run into an issue is whether or not those bonds would qualify for a tax exempt status. And to do that, there has to be an acknowledgement from the association regarding, you know, public use and, you know, those type of things that when that language was presented to them at the start of the project, they said, you know, we're not comfortable with this language, and rightfully so. That's entirely their prerogative. But where interest rates are right now, the difference between a taxable issue and a non-taxable issue is a considerable difference. To the point where, you know, we would not be able to pay, what we would project based on that conversation would be the cubic yard price to do 170,000 cubic yards of removal at this point in time, so. So the last conversation we had, on the topic. So, we're kind of locked in with Malley to do this mechanically. I think everyone's kind of under the impression that we're gonna have to do the river through hydraulic dredging just based on the logistics of where the river is. You can't truck a lot of that out, there's just not places. And more than likely, Guy's gonna be the low bidder because the other dredging companies are gonna cost too much to move their stuff here. So, you'll be 2 years in, you'll have one project each way done. We can have the conversation again in 2025, 26 with where interest rates might be.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
I don't foresee interest rates coming down anytime soon. Certainly the Fed is not indicating, anticipation to see a lot of rate cuts in the near future, but.
The way we're collecting right now, we don't have to worry about interest rates at all, because there isn't any.
Correct. And, the lake committee, what we've done is, so the village uses Isabella Bank for our general checking, because obviously they're in the village, kind of have to. So does the association. In order to, be totally transparent, we've taken the lake committee money and put it into a bank at Mercantile, or account at Mercantile. So it's independent, it's separate, you can't worry about any commingling of funds, anything like that. It's in a separate fund and it's in a separate bank. Mercantile was fantastic to work with. They gave us basically a money market account where, because we're only gonna write 2 or 3 checks a year, more than likely. As long as we stay under 10 checks a month, they're giving us a really good interest rate on the money in there. So that's another thing that we looked at. To me, it's like, all right, we have the opportunity to invest some of this to basically get more money into the project this way, because the Malley bid is 205,000, let's say. We're gonna collect this year probably about 310. And there's gonna be some other work that we have to do in terms of permitting for the other projects, that kind of stuff, but. We'll have some money that we'll be able to bank interest on for a year to carry forward into that river project the following year, plus whatever millage we get in 25. So, projects moving along, it just takes time, and.
The delay of the money is what is really slowing it down, how long it's waiting before the money comes in.
Yeah,
The weather was a bit of an issue too, wasn't it?
the weather was an issue this year
Right,
for
for
doing the
the
project,
Start of
because
it, right.
we had structured it, the council, we had adopted a few resolutions back in January. That set up, a process to do interfund lending to ourselves. So if we had good weather, we were going to borrow from the general fund to the lake project.
Mhm.
And get Birch Bay done in February or March.
Yep.
And then have this year's millage proceeds pay that back.
Mhm. Which won't get till September when we collect our.
But, people could have put boats in at the end of February.
What do you know? this year?
Didn't happen.
Yep.
But that's it pretty much in a nutshell for us right now.
Well, thank you, Tim. Mr. Laraway, would you like to give us a village council update?
Well, actually, Mr. Wolf just did that. Rather well. The only things, housekeeping things I would add is we have in the last couple month meeting got some public attendance. Primarily with complaints about animal control and dogs and running loose. In with the Castle North Lane and Castle Drive area. If I remember right. So we've asked Tim to notify the sheriff's department and put that on the plate where our contract deputy, when he's out here. He can kind of watch for that too at the same time. And they can do the animal control, because Tim can't drop everything he's doing and go look for a dog. You got them out here, that's kind of what they do. Also, we filled Al Davis's spot on the council with, and I know I'll screw this up, Emil Latte.
Latte,
Yeah, he goes by Joe,
just like.
make that easier.
So I didn't.
So he filled that spot, we welcome him aboard. Also, we discussed the House Bill HR 5438, which pretty much takes control of short-term rentals. And council asked him to contact the senator and representative, voice our request for an amendment that will allow local control based on a vote of the local people. Other than that, those are pretty much the whole fall election.
Confusing. Well, we're at the point of public hearing. And I don't see anyone in the audience, but do we have anyone online?
We have nobody online.
Okay. So we opened at 7:20 and we're gonna close that at 7:20. I would say same for public comment. If there's no one in the audience and no one online, we'll go past that. We'll come to existing business. We have none at this point. Is that still the case?
Okay.
Okay. So moving along to new business.
Your first item under new business, would be a proposal to amend the village's zoning ordinance, the text of the ordinance. In three different areas. First would be the definitions. Second would be the matrix of allow or permitted and special land uses in our residential districts. And then in chapter 1270, the standards of use as it pertains to daycares. We talked a little bit about this last year. The village right now has two family daycare homes that are at capacity with a waiting list. Both would like to go to the group level. Both are in the LR1 zoning district. Both are actually on the south side of the lake, which I don't have a lot of houses there, but compared to the north side. And speaking with Mike Skenazy, the rep from Lara, the DHS, whoever does licensing. That, you know, this is a problem that we have in our area. It's the lack of childcare availability, particularly for infants and toddlers. And that's what both of them are saying as well. And, you know, in looking at the survey data that we have from the master plan survey, it was, you know, a third opposed, a third totally cool, and a third, if you have the right rules, we're okay with it kind of deal. And I think this is one that, based on what the other communities in our area have done, Mount Pleasant, Union Township, Elma, that have become more permissive in this area, allowing group daycares as a special land use, it would be consistent with that to amend our ordinance to do the same. Based on the feedback that we had, maybe 2 years ago now, when we updated the ordinance, I'm sure those of you who were here remember the residents in the LR4 district when they came out about accessory dwelling units and bed and breakfast. So, you know, we're not looking to change any of the stuff in the LR3 or the LR4 district. It's just LR1 and LR2, which is where we already permit them outright for the family size, and then go to the group size would be a special land use permit at that point in time. I believe, in fact, I know, at one point in time, we did allow it as a special land use in the LR1 district. Back up until probably the late 2000s. And then we zoned it down.
Markovich time.
Markovich's were, yeah,
Markovich,
yeah. And there was another one, I think Brenda Kowalik was one as well at the time. You know, the changes are pretty straightforward. You know, the definition amended to be more consistent with what the definition of state law is. The matrix is you're just adding the two, you know, to special land use, and then the regulations, really the only one that changed of significance was bumping that start time from 7 to 6:30. You know, what I would ask the planning commission to consider is, you know, schedule a public hearing, and we can invite those two and Mike, if he's available, to come and talk to you about what they're seeing, what they're facing. You know, because the reality for us as a community is we are a commuter community. We need places for our kids to go. And Izzy's kids, you know, Izzy's is typically full, but they're also in a tough situation where they're struggling to keep staff like everybody else is right now. And Mike talked to me a little bit about that is, one of the problems is they can't keep staff, so they can't go up and, in that level, and that's a cycle that says that they're so common in the industry. And when you go from the family size to the group size, you do have to have an employee on site. I went back and looked at when we amended our home occupation stuff, we became far more permissive in that area too, when that update we did a year and a half ago, in terms of home occupations and your ability to have an employee on site and stuff like that. So, in my opinion, I think it's pretty consistent with those changes as well. Yeah, I welcome your feedback.
I just had one quick question, and I guess I'm doing it more for clarification. Group daycare, is there age limits on how old? Cause you started by saying toddlers and infants, but I mean, group daycare, as far as I know, is it over teenage?
Yep.
Okay, so it's not only just the number of people that are allowed, but I wanted to clarify age wise as well too. So I'm guessing it's what, up to 18 and younger, or?
Minor, so 17, yeah, 17.
Okay, so whatever we consider a minor, so
Yep.
that would be as much as it would do.
Yep.
Knowing that most kids that age are not obviously in daycare, I'm thinking 14-ish, 13, somewhere around that, probably in around some of the older ages.
I got a 15 and 11-year-old that are latchkey kids, so.
Okay. But I just wanted clarification on that there is an age limit, so, for those group daycares.
So what's the downside to it? People are concerned about the heavy traffic between 7:30 and 9,
Parking, yeah.
More so, yeah.
and then the 4 to 6.
That's that
timeframe
drop
or
off,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
don't want the traffic down their street.
yeah. I don't think noise is a big issue. I mean, they're gonna be playing outside, but
Mhm.
go outside in my neighborhood, you hear construction hammers all day right now,
Yeah, I mean, generally, elderly people kind of enjoy the sound of little children having a good time or things of that nature, I would think, because they tend to be a little bit lonely. The traffic flow might be the bigger issue.
Anything that does come up that wants to put a group daycare in there, we will still notify everybody within
Yeah.
300 feet.
So that's,
Injections. and that
so
kind
if
of
you were to
stuff.
amend the ordinance for a special land use, they have to come in, they have to do the application.
Mhm.
We notify everyone within 300 feet of the hearing.
Yep.
The availability, come and look at the application, we publish it in the paper,
Mhm.
and then they have to have a public hearing before they get formally approved. So like family daycare is a straight administrative approval. It's,
Right.
I sign off on that, you're good to go. This, they gotta come in and, so you give the neighbors the opportunity to come in and voice any concerns they have.
And there's in this case, it's what, up to 12,
Correct.
right, up to a dozen kids.
Yep.
I guess if I want to say it that way, so.
And one of the reasons why I want to change the definitions is the state has amended this slightly. And we had written our language based on what we were anticipating they were going to do. And they did it a little bit differently. Where if you're a family daycare, it is 1 to 6. There is the ability that if you've been in business for 2 years to get a variance from them to have a 7th child. So that's what our language reflects, because there was in the process at our time of doing it, that they were doing these discussions. In the group daycare, the same 2-year period, you could go up to 14 with the administrative waiver. He said none of them do it because, to go from the family to the group, now you're gotta bring on that employee, so.
I could see some people in the residential areas saying, I'm not loving the idea of 12 kids all out playing at one time. That kind of stuff, one or two can make so much noise, it doesn't make a lot more noise. So in a residential area, I could see that being something, if it's more the commercial business district, stuff like that, it's already noisy enough as it is. I don't think that you would get people complaining then, but I'd be interested in hearing residential people within 300 feet, but they realize it can be up to 12 or 14 kids, what they think.
Yeah, I mean, and if we have two of them that are already interested in expanding, I think.
Yeah.
I think we should get them in with that gentleman that you said, would tell us what they're facing and hear them out and just get the information
Yeah.
out to their neighbors and see what the neighbors think about it.
Is it worth talking anything about how close group daycares could be together? I mean, could
Yeah.
you potentially look at two houses in the street,
That's,
12 here and 12 there?
that's one of the proposed changes.
Okay, so I mean, I'm not opposed to doing it. I just want to be a little bit cautious about where we allow some of the stuff.
So one of the changes in here that I propose is right now the ordinance says, because we do allow group daycares in the LR5 district. 300 feet from a state licensed residential facility or a facility offering substance abuse treatment and rehab to 7 or more people. The proposed change I have moves that to 500 feet and adds another family daycare home or group daycare home.
I missed that part when I
Yeah.
threw it down.
So you can still do a family daycare.
Right.
But you couldn't go to the group level if there's another one within 500 feet again.
Right, this family's limited to 6 anyways.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So I did think about that and made that change in there for that reason.
All the questions I have.
Are you gonna make a motion for Tim?
Do we want to go that far? You ready to go that far yet, or do you still need to tweak?
No, I'm good.
You're ready with the
Yeah.
budget, so really there's no changes other than,
It's really a simple, straight change.
right, so, okay, so. If you want, yeah, I'll make the motion that we go ahead and allow the proposal confirming group daycares as Tim has written it out with the rules and regulations. I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign? Okay, moving on to the master plan survey results.
So just, when we go flat, we go to any kind of public hearing now?
Yeah, so you'll have a public hearing at your next meeting.
Okay, so I just wanted to,
Yeah.
what we voted on.
Right now though, right?
No,
No.
but, I just want to make sure you guys understand, it doesn't take place right now, we still have a public hearing to go.
Next month.
Other procedures
Yeah.
before any of this is gonna take effect overall.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
wanna
you're gonna
clarify.
invite those candidates, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to make sure clarified stuff, so.
No, that's
Okay,
good,
go
always
ahead.
clarify for me.
Yeah, master plan survey results, wow.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed in this.
So was I was shocked on some of the answers, so.
I wasn't shocked so much on some of the answers. I was disappointed in the response. You know, in this past, we've done these type of things and had,
400.
yeah, you know, 350, you know.
Big, so.
And when we came in at, you know, about $1.50, it's like, you know.
Yeah.
And, there's not really a politically correct way for me to say what I'm about to say, so forgive me if
Just
it
say
comes
it.
across in any offensive way. It's not meant to.
Right,
One of the measuring sticks you want to look at is whether or not the people who took your survey match the demographics in your census data. You know, if your age, gender, those type of things. And our survey respondents do not. They are older and predominantly more female than our census data would indicate is a good cross-section of the community. That doesn't in any way, you know, negate their views or their opinion or their input. But where that does is, like on our previous survey, you know, one of the questions we had asked, and that was, you know, about policing. And the response was, you know, if we were to do a 1 mil, you know, proposal, you know, would you support it or not? And it was like 44% said yes. Another, you know, 50% said no, and then the rest were undecided. When we went up for that question, 42% said yes. I mean, we had a good sample to work off of in that data collection. We don't really have a good sample size to work off of in this. But the thing that I thought was interesting too, when we looked at what the most desired business in the community are,
mm-hmm. That was true.
car wash.
Yep.
Urgent care. Had a lot of coffee shops. Had a lot of comments about an affordable restaurant.
What question was that? What question number? Sorry, I'm looking at my phone, I don't.
One of the things I have started to do, is I went back to the data and pulled a data set that was just people who answered question 5, which is, do you have people or members of your home under the age of 18? To see what those views were versus the entire sample set. I haven't really had a lot of time to go through it yet, but I am gonna break it out a little bit that way to look at that question differently. In general, I've went through the public safety stuff right now is where I've started, just because that's what is really at the forefront of the council discussion. In general, I think there's been a slight shift in the unsafe direction from the safe direction from a few years ago. Nothing that I would say is, alarming, but certainly, certainly a movement in that direction.
Like around the horn, right?
Yeah.
Just the whole-
Yeah. And that's exactly, how much of that is just the hysteria you get if you watch the news these days.
Or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the whole
Or next
company,
door.
not just like.
I mean, we literally live in the safest time this country's ever existed based on crime data
Every time our target spoke into it, you're reading it on the show, and all of a sudden, it's all really the neighborhood.
and people watch way too much CSI, like, oh, they should be able to pull fingerprints off of that. Gotta pull fingerprints off of that,
Not that big.
Well, I think some people have a little bit unrealistic sense of what they expect out here. I had a fire across the street from my house last week.
Yeah, you did.
And, it was dropping his gas tank out of his car and something, he didn't undo the battery, lit and boom, 3 big explosions. He's fine. But as I ran over there after that, he bit complaining, I'm sorry, don't wanna say why I'm on TV, but, complaining about how long it would take the fire department to get there. It took him less than 15 minutes to get there, but he wanted them there like a minute or two. I'm like, this is the volunteer fire department area. They gotta go to someplace, grab the trucks, get them out here and do all the rest of that stuff, so. In that sense, it's just like, I thought they were doing fine for getting response time. But he expected them within a minute or two, and
Yeah.
I think
Well,
some people's
Didn't he think it
attitudes
was
are,
full-time though?
pardon me?
Didn't he think it was a full-time?
Yeah, and it was a younger kid, so I don't, it's just a volunteer fireman part of it and what's supposed to happen, but.
If I thought there was a full-time fire department living that close, I'd have been there too.
Well, yeah, but I mean, still, it's right now during the day, what's unfortunate with the fire department, they have one guy that really is ready to answer.
Yeah.
He's over 70 years old. They can only do so much, but it's the same thing with, you see police cars around here, we know the police officers that live here. So again, it's an unexpected thing that, well, the guy that lives down the street should just jump in his cruiser and come over here and take care of the problem. No, it doesn't work that way. Sorry, I'm not trying to lecture, but sometimes I wonder why people don't understand. Because of where we live, we're not gonna get that instant response.
We get it with snow.
Yeah.
That's just it. We're very blessed with our snow.
We are,
like,
yeah.
Different things. We
Yeah.
go, you pull out of Lake Isabella and it's a different story. And so
Story.
that could be it. We do have some true blessings of certain things. We wake up, everything's cleaned up.
When we lived here, well, when I moved here in 96, the village didn't exist. It was anywhere from 3 to 4 days before you would get snowplows out here, because it was a county, and obviously we weren't. On top of the list or anything like that, but 3 to 4 days, holy smoke, compared to what we get to now.
Yeah. True that.
Well, back then, they went paved roads first.
Yes, right, yeah, our roads were in horrible condition back then too, so, but anyways, go ahead.
No,
I don't mean to interrupt you.
We did ask that question in there, about response times and that type of stuff, and. That is something that is a very real issue in the community, is that. We are dependent upon a volunteer fire and rescue department,
Mhm.
and during the day, that can be very slick, like
Gotten worse.
the fire across the street from your house.
Mhm.
I'd be at the fire department there by 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I had one fire extinguisher, didn't really do a whole lot.
No, but
The fire department gets up at, I'm helping roll hoses out and stuff like that, because they don't have anybody else, and while they're there, they had a rescue run as well.
Yeah.
Nobody responded to that, they finally got someone to, but,
I think it's Frank that.
Frank, yeah,
Frank.
it's Frank.
And he's 70+ years old, like, bless his heart for still doing it, but.
And they got Gary came as well.
Oh, did he? Okay,
Yeah,
so
they,
I didn't see a lot of it until it was pretty much.
but,
Anyways,
you know, but the same situation happened, in January, just outside the village, Wooden Road, which is that little kind of triangle off of Rolland and Drew by the river right there.
Mhm.
The little tiny.
oh,
side-
yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Gentleman shed caught on fire.
Mhm.
And, you know, if it's in the village, I will typically respond. This was not, but they had been toned out for a while and nobody responds. I'm like, I'm gonna go over there and see, you know, whatever. And, this guy was irate because the fire department had showed up. And it's like, you understand that they're a volunteer department,
Mhm.
like people working like Mount Pleasant and Morbark, you know. They gotta get here
Mhm.
to there and, you know, but you know, he's like, I thought they were full time. I'm like, I could have driven to Wayne and back by now. It's like, it's not how it works, you know, sorry. But. Other stuff in the survey. You know, there was an interesting. There was an interesting tone that came through some of the open-ended comments that I haven't been able to completely go through yet, but there was a divide between people who are very vocal about, apparently the village is very pro-development and we just want to have all this development, we want to have all these big city problems. And people that, you know, moved here because they don't want any development whatsoever. And it's like, you moved into a community, a lakefront community that has 600 vacant lots. What do you think is gonna happen?
Right,
You know, like,
it's a natural part of it, it's not like we can just say, nope, can't build any more houses or have any more.
you chose to live here.
Yeah.
Do you think other people might have the same thoughts that you
Right.
had to come here? You know, and I think quite candidly, you know, we get some pushback on, you know, the village, you know, has too many permits or, you know, requirements. It's like, we've been very intentional about trying to have development meet a certain threshold.
Mhm.
You know, back when we started to do, planning a little bit more seriously, one of the quotes that was in our master plan from like 2005 maybe was, growth for the sake of growth is the philosophy of a cancer cell. And that's not what we wanted. We wanted to have intentionality in what we got because we only had one chance to have a finished product that we were gonna live with and like. So we've done things intentional that, I think has produced a really quality place people wanna live in, you know? But it's like, you don't want the government to be involved, but you think people should have the property right to do what they want, but it's like.
Right.
You know. I had a conversation one time with one of our residents who was. Adamant that, you know, we do too much and people should be able to do what they want on their land, blah, blah, blah. Well, the lot next door to him was a vacant waterfront lot owned by an individual that he did not care for. And when he asked what his plans were for that lot, because he had a variance hearing to get a variance on a front yard setback, I told him like, he should not be able to do anything on that lot. That should say exactly. It's like, you just told me you don't want government to regulate this, but next door you sure as heck do.
By the lot.
By the
Otherwise
lot.
It happen, so.
You know, I looked through this, I don't see anything in here that jumps out at me really as a big, we gotta change a lot, in terms of what the goals are in the master plan. You know,
I think some of the results about what kind of other stuff they wanted in the community.
yeah,
I was a little bit surprised that the farmer's market was number one. So another one was the walking trails, that didn't surprise me. And then the other one was, I'm talking about top three, and then the
Yeah.
third one was like outdoor concerts and stuff like that. It's like, okay, I can totally see that. But the farmer's market being number one was a little bit of a shock. I wouldn't have not have expected that to be that high, so. I'm not opposed to it. I think it'd be a great idea to have them out here, instead of having to go all the way into Mount Pleasant for them.
you know, and the loose dog issue, if you looked at question 2021, you know, what are the problems in our community from not a problem, minor, moderate to major? You know, you had 18%. So 25 of 135 says that loose dogs are a major problem.
Mhm.
Another 26, that's a moderate problem. So you got, you know, 40% right there saying this is a legitimate problem.
Yeah, so because this is anonymous, you can't really tell what areas.
No.
Have dogs running free.
But just based on experience, I tend to always hear about the west side of the lake being the one with the most dog problems, you know, versus the east side, and I'm talking over the years of people complaining about it. I would say it's almost a 10-to-1 thing, it's the west side, it tends to have more dog problems than the east or golf course side, so. How to make that, I don't know, because I know plenty of people who own dogs on this side of the lake,
Mhm.
you know, so I don't know why it's one side versus the other, but it's obviously, and many people show up for many times, that it's an issue that we need to try to deal with. I don't know how to fix the problem, but.
And I think that goes right wrong with your demographics of what side of the lake and what what kind of people. And
I sort of think
I have
that
a guy
too.
next to me, he's got 8 dogs, and he doesn't, they're not a problem.
Right.
I never hear them.
Mhm.
I hear dogs all over, but I never hear one of his, and he's got 8 of them.
Well,
Right now, he typically does
Yeah.
it. He typically does it.
Yeah, when you talk demographics, I think there is a little difference between this side and that side.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's some differences.
Mhm.
And one time, I'm just gonna ask this because we're discussing these questions. Last year, I saw 2 dogs tied to a tree, wrapped around each other, wrapped around, and I didn't know what to do, but I felt like they were not running free,
Mhm,
but it seemed really strange to me.
mhm.
And their food dishes and water dishes were tipped over. It really was alarming to me
That's still animal abuse.
on the Main
But
Street.
they're tied out without food and water. That's animal abuse and animal.
Well, I thought so
control.
too, and I did not know what to do. I sort of snooped by the next day to see if
Yeah.
they had been taken inside and they were gone. And so must be was a thing, and I didn't involve myself. Probably would have called Tim the next day
Yeah.
if they were still there, but I thought it was very strange. I had never seen dogs tied out to trees before.
What I told the people that came to the council meetings was, there's a non-emergency sheriff's department number, 773-1000. And they have animal control. If nothing else, they'll put it on the board to the next deputy that's out in this area can perform. But we can't expect him or Marcy Wall to do it. As much as I'd like to see that, we
Yeah.
can't do it.
And a lot of it comes down to, you know, having the resources available at the right times, you know,
Exactly.
like, you know, if it's on a Friday night at 7, you know,
Nobody's working.
nobody's working that, you know.
Sunday morning at 6:30 or 7.
You know, and Mark has been working Saturdays more on code enforcement, you know, than during the week. He's included that into his routine. You know, like we had an issue the other day. It was 4 o'clock that it happened, and you know, I had to be somewhere at 5. It's like I only invest an hour to do this, and you know, animal control is a different issue as well in terms of one of the things that, as the manager that gives advice to the council, that I'm particularly leery about from a liability standpoint is taking custody of any of the animals.
Right.
You know, we don't want to be the catcher and holder.
Right.
You know, that opens up other liability issues on our end that.
Now, that could get you shot.
Bit or anything. I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But keep in mind too, the animal control falls under the sheriff's department right now. We don't even know, you know, how long that's gonna be,
Yeah.
so we could potentially see that go away next year. Which would make things even worse.
So you're sort of dissecting this and figuring out where are the
Yeah.
biggest issues, what are the biggest pain points, things anyone can help with, and we'll go from there. Well, I guess at least we got some participation, but what did you say it was a few years back? 300 versus
350, yeah.
150?
Yeah, you know, based on that survey, then we were able to say, you know, with a 95% confidence rate, we were within 3% either way, on our data from that one. We're not even close on this one.
We have only 151, but they're not split up that bad. You got 35% from 0 to 44, 30% from 44 to 64, and 35% over that. So it's not as bad as it's all old people.
Yeah. I didn't say it was all old people. I'm a Gen Xer, I'm not in the, you know.
What do we think the issue was? It just didn't feel the need to fill it out, or could we try it again? It's an awful lot of work to try again, obviously, but there was that little QR code that just
Yeah.
right to it, and
Give them the option to win something.
You know, we've done that in the past. We didn't do it on this one.
What was that?
option to win something.
Yeah, you know, take the survey and you can win a $50 gift certificate type deal.
Then they're just gonna fill something out, whether they believe it or
Yeah.
not.
I've got an app on my phone. I take surveys for 50 cents, you know, they might not be the most truthful answers because I just want to get through the survey.
In a perfect world, I know I've mentioned it before, I would love to have, do you remember we used to have that second mailbox where they just put in that weekly newspaper with coupons and all that kind of stuff? I would love to have something like that here in the village where we could have everybody have a mailbox, have a village mailbox to where we could put a bunch of surveys in there or just update notices or minutes from things, people who aren't gonna be on the internet or aren't gonna be on Facebook. You know, something they can physically pull out and look at in that thing, because we can't legally, we can't put it in their mailbox without putting stamps and all that stuff on it, but if we could have a way of just driving around and stuffing mailboxes real quick with information, the more information you get in front of them, the more people, at least they're gonna be a little bit more informed or may take the survey, you know, that kind of stuff, so. But
Maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but I noticed in question 34 and 35. What's your favorite thing about living at Lake Isabella and what is the biggest issue? I don't see any response.
Yeah, those are the open-ended ones I haven't been able to completely go through yet and do.
Okay, I just,
Yeah.
wish they go that
They got
respond.
downloaded into an Excel spreadsheet, so to convert that over to Word, and I just haven't had time to do
so were
that.
there lots of comments on stuff too? Cause I didn't remember there being that many comments.
There were 40-ish comments per
Okay.
question when you had open-ended. There were more on the business one, there was like 60 that did,
Okay.
you know, that's a word cloud from all the
Mhm.
answers from that question on what your most desired business to come to the community is.
The bigger the item, the more
The
popular it
more
is.
frequently it was
Okay.
stated, you
Mhm.
know. Well, I mean, if you think about it, they're all convenience type stuff,
Mhm.
you know. The nearest car wash is in Union Township or Remus. The
Mhm.
nearest good urgent care is in Elma or Claire.
Coffee shops aren't until Mount Pleasant, right? Is there anything
Yeah.
closer than,
well,
okay, I don't drink coffee, that's why I don't know, but.
laundromat.
Yeah.
You know, the laundromat's a tough one, cause that's without a sewer.
Car wash
That's
and
a-
laundromat both.
I think you can do a sewer, car wash without a sewer system. You have 5 acre facilities, but the laundromat's a lot tougher.
Because of all the chemicals that would
Yeah.
have to be dealt with. so.
I see Mercantile made the list.
Mercantile made the
Oh,
list,
nice.
they did,
I like it.
didn't know if it was you or Greg that took the survey.
I took the survey, but I did not put that there.
What's the word cream in there for?
Ice cream.
I think I said.
Ice cream, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
got it.
I see urgent, and then I see cream, and it's like, it's not clicking here, guys, so. Okay,
These are always fun to look at, but
Yeah.
they can cause a little bit of stress too, and I
Mhm.
think it is important that people use their voice. It's kind of shameful. I don't have the Nextdoor app or Facebook or any of those things, but people will say stuff to me and I hear things, and so oftentimes you hear, well, security's driving by my house 10 times, but then the survey says that security's not out enough, and so we kind of we need these things to hear voices to know what is important to people and where their minds are at.
Seems too on one of the sites next door that there's a big question or comment about the security truck and what they do.
yeah,
Yes,
That all they do is sit out front of my house and write things down. They should be,
Well, now they
Doing more.
did specify a truck, 'cause I wondered about that too.
yeah, you're trying,
They talked about taking pictures and that would probably be Mark.
Nope, probably Mark.
And, in my opinion, the only people writing those, if they see him out there taking a picture, they might as well smile, because they're probably what he's taking a picture of.
now, when somebody's got an ordinance thing, say a car with no license plate, is that what he takes a picture of and sends the notice to them? That's what
an
I-
example.
Shouldn't he have a truck that doesn't say security? It should say
code
ordinance,
enforcement.
or code enforcement or something
I
like
said
that,
code for- You might be confusing with, security on the LIPWA truck.
right?
So it
There
does
it
that?
is, yeah, well, it
He
did,
doesn't take.
they had talked about taking the magnet.
It's right there, Mike.
That says code
It's the
enforcement.
big blue SUV that says code enforcement.
The white truck says
LIPWA pickup.
security.
And they had talked at one time, because of the same thing, they have no authority to changing that from security to something else. I don't know if they follow through on that.
They just drive by and I wave, they
No,
wave
yeah.
back and that's it.
They could keep him
Then they
in
drive by my house.
their own area.
They never even stop. They just.
No,
I see that truck drive down Sandra Ave and drive past my house.
Mhm.
There's no damn business being there. There's no
Oh, that's the way?
LIPOA property there.
No, they're, well, okay,
So he
yeah, you're right in
should be
that sense, but they're
They're not
patrolling the
allowed by us
whole
to.
village.
And he
so
And we definitely don't have any
They don't have the authority.
property out
They
there.
have absolutely no authority. They
Right.
have no backup. They have no defense. They have no business being out there.
I think the only thing they would have authority on would be any of the building and use restriction stuff, but even then, they never
They
enforce that.
don't have any.
So, yeah,
They have us enforce no trespassing in their parks,
okay.
you know?
So they're not even doing that.
You know, but our vehicle that we use for code enforcement is
Very well. marked.
Police Interceptor, blue, says code enforcement on it,
Have Tim show you the lights on that thing, holy crap.
for the siren.
I heard, no, that's right, the siren was out
Um,
there, the lights were impressive.
The only
You
thing
know,
that's missing is the light bar.
And on our website, we've got, you know, all of this type of information in terms of code enforcement, so like.
Is that you, Tim?
What's that? Yeah, it's mine.
Scaling now.
It's one of those days he was kind
If
of
you wanna go.
getting into it. you know?
Why is it not sharing this? Hang on. Hate when I switch over to the website, because I gotta go and do this. Display settings.
So you're saying like Poland can't change what's on the side of their truck?
Well, they can.
They can, and they've talked about doing it, they just never follow through. which is-
All I gotta do is take it off.
They're land, they're,
Mean anything anyway.
It's typical for LIPWA, I hate to say that publicly, but I will, because I'd say it to George. And, you know, they talk about one thing and they never follow through.
Put park security on it or something, you know? I don't know.
They don't even need security on there, because Robert's right, they have no chief to enforce anything,
so like,
you know, so.
there's the vehicle.
Maybe it's a perception, yeah, those are our vehicles. It's a perception thing, I guess, you know, the truck driver around security on it.
Well, especially
Yeah,
when
well,
it's
some
going 5
I wondered
miles an hour.
about that, Tim, because it's a gray truck and I didn't think we had a gray truck here.
We have two red trucks that are mainly DPW and then the blue
Yeah.
vehicle. I will occasionally do code enforcement and I typically will drive the red truck. Mainly because I'm 6 foot tall and Mark is not, and to readjust the seats in the vehicle.
Very well put.
Mark is not. You know, but on the website, like we have flyers that we include in our notices we give to people, maybe like, what is code enforcement? Outlines the whole process, you know. Eliminating blight is another one that we do, blight code flyer. So we, like, here are the things that we're looking for when we're doing blight.
How was that
This is my
working out?
property, I can do whatever I want. I've heard that.
Blight's going pretty well,
But if
actually.
the neighbor's property
we
bugs
just did-
you got something to say then, right?
We just did lawn and grass.
Yeah.
We just did our grass sweep,
Just skip my house, I hope.
I
I have a dead battery in my
Take them out
lawnmower.
Ah,
No.
no.
I pulled the battery out today, I will get a new one tomorrow.
Get it in your garage.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean. One of, I'm not gonna say it's the that. Yeah, that's on. You also have to take into consideration that on like Nextdoor and stuff, some of the feedback that you get that is more vitriolic are people who may have had an experience
Yep.
in that particular issue.
Happens a lot.
Um,
Or it's just one of the contrarians. Website.
most informed
Like
part of the
Facebook,
internet.
but but
I haven't been on there in a long time, because I got tired of responding to everything.
it's not ours.
Trying to go back.
They're all over the States.
Trying to put a facts out there when they say one thing, like,
Turned into
oh,
an
where you got that
advertising
information from, but
platform
here's the
now.
real truth, so blah, blah, blah.
But then that's exhaustive
It's-
too.
Time at the time, I don't mind helping
And
people
they.
newer around digital learning stuff, but if you've been here for 10 years, you don't know the difference between LIP and Village, I'm not gonna try all three.
Services. Right.
Well, we'll continue to dissect the survey results, and I think we'll, hopefully some good will come.
Yeah. You know, like,
Most of these.
90% said good or excellent on whether it's a good place to live. I mean, those are positive things.
And so.
Should we publish this in easy to
Yeah.
understand form to everybody,
In other words.
like in the newsletter or something?
Newsletter and, you know, I plan to use some of the
And.
the data to reach out towards like my mid-Michigan or McLaren and say, hey, you know, these are the things our community are telling us is the most needed thing out here, and they're saying that it's a poor place for medical care, you know. Want to think about opening up something out here, you know, use it in that light as well.
You guys are just looking for work.
Yeah, we don't have an urgent center out here, but we do have
No,
the McLaren doctors that are out there on the north side of Waveman,
Yeah. you know, so,
but they're only open 3 days a week,
yeah.
something like that, so.
You know, with us too, now that we are at the essential level for the redevelopment right community program, you know, we're looked at a little bit differently in terms of development opportunities. So, you know, having that type of data available on our website hopefully can entice some type of, you know, medical development would be my preferred something to come out like that, because that legitimately is, I think, one of the biggest things we need.
The other thing that changed too from the MMR ambulance perspective is they used to have an ambulance all the time dispatched or sitting at the fire department in Waveman. They no longer do. So for whatever reason, they pulled that. So we don't have an ambulance sitting 5 minutes away anymore like
That
that.
comes from Deerfield Center.
Pardon me?
Comes from, was it Deerfield Center?
Yeah, right. And I don't even know if that one has one there all the time either. I know MMR was really shrinking down a lot of stuff because of cost and stuff like that too, but I know they yanked the one here in Waveman, but Deerfield one, I'd be curious to see if there's one sitting there anymore. So just enough FYI information. So.
I wonder how that, McLaren has that urgent care, the one PA that's in north of Waveman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wonder how, but I've never seen anybody there. You know,
They're only there 3 days a week. My doctor was there. She used to come out here, Mike Frillo's daughter. But her family moved to Texas, so it's a little bit long of a drive for me to see her that way. But, I don't know that they have replaced her with another PA out here or not, but again, like I said, they're only open 3 days a week, and then the other days are in Mount Pleasant in their office in that way
Yeah.
too, so. But,
and I'm sure some of that is staffing shortages too.
yeah, I'm sure
You know,
probably.
how many facilities can you open and staff, you know?
But we don't have an urgent center. or
You know,
anything
but
like that.
reaching out to like Isabella Citizens for Health. Or my wife works, you know,
Right.
have you thought about doing something out here for that?
I don't know how they could man something out here that economically, I guess I would say, because, you know, now you're running a building, and paying people to be out here. You know, what are we, I don't know how big we have to be before it would be justifiable for them to put
Yeah.
an urgent care center out this way. But I mean, you do have Wademan, Lake Isabella, Beale City, Bay Region maybe, even though it's not the county. Or something up this way, it might not hurt, but I don't know what it would take to do that.
I don't know who she works for yet, but my neighbor has a job where she sits at the phone and she gets calls directed to her, urgent care, So she's a nurse.
Telehealth, yeah.
Yeah, so she'll tell them this, that, or go to the
Yep.
doctor or whatever.
Yep.
And maybe we could hook into something like that, cause they've got people.
Yeah.
Online already doing it, just we have one out here too, I know of.
Yeah, and that's, that's a great point too, that with telehealth, what's the future of brick and mortar, in these situations too? Um,
So it'd be a lot more financially
yeah,
equitable.
I mean, they got a little credit card now, you can put your thumb down there and it takes your heartbeat and everything too.
Yeah, I had one of those.
Do you, does it really work well, or?
Yeah,
Does it? Okay.
it sure does.
I mean, for $99,
It sent me to the hospital once.
but for $99, that's a good investment, somebody who has heart issues, if you live way out here, for doing something like that too, but you're right, doing things telehealth wise, there's more and more things you can hook up to your phones and your computers that they could probably monitor stuff as well too, even though they're not right here. But
So I think what we're thinking is Tim will digest the information
Mhm.
and maybe present the top 5
maybe a little bit
things.
more next
and see-
month, yeah.
5 to 10 items to see if there's something that we could come up with a plan, maybe to move forward with a few of them. That would be nice. So, well, thank you to those of you who did the survey. Still nobody in the crowd, anybody online for public comments? Okay, we're gonna skip that. Member comments outside of everything we've already talked about?
I just have one thing just for your information. This Saturday is the annual Nottawa Sherman Fire Department silent auction. Starts at 6 o'clock. It's at the Waveman Community Building. And they will be auctioning off all kinds of stuff. I have not been able to make it over by myself, but I hear there's some really, really, really good deals. So a lot of casinos are giving a one night or a weekend away. There's ski trips. There's all kinds of stuff that's
When is
donated
this
by.
gonna happen?
Pardon me? When? Where?
When?
Well, I'm sorry, this Saturday at 6 o'clock, so it starts at 6 and usually goes to 9. There's food there, there's food trucks, there's food inside, there's drinks, there's entertainment, bands, so even if you go there and don't wanna, buy any auction stuff, it's still a good time to sit around and talk to people. do that
Really
kind of
good
stuff.
time to sign up to be a volunteer firefighter if somebody's
Sure.
interested. It sounds
Oh,
like there's a
well-
major need.
They're actually always looking for both, because now they're doing it to where you can actually be just an emergency response person and not a fire person if you don't want to deal with the fire stuff. And 75 to 80% of the calls from Nottawa Sherman Fire are
Easy, yeah.
over fire. I mean, they have 400 and something runs and 300, high 300s are all the money runs. They get no money back out of that. All the MMR stuff, the ambulance that comes and does all that, the fire department gets no money from any of that stuff. It all goes to the ambulance. Yet it's 75 to 80% of our calls that are happening all the time. I don't like that. I wish they could fix that, but they can't. But this helps raise money for covering that kind of stuff. I just want to make sure you guys knew about it. That's happening this Saturday. So if you got nothing better to do.
Anybody else? I think that wraps that up as well as announcements. I'm doing a motion to adjourn.
Hey.